Welcome back to Yosef's Hanukkah extravaganza. Now, you may be wondering why I am doing all these silly videos, all 8 nights, well, most of them, of Hanukkah. And it's because one of the main points of Hanukkah, the main point of lighting the candles, is to publicize the miracle of God's sovereignty over seemingly mundane events, especially in the history of the Jewish people. But also I'm doing this because the Christian world has long since lost touch of its historical roots, and those historical roots of the ancient New Testament faith are roots which were understood and were even a given in the writings of the original writers of the New Testament. But unfortunately, after the Roman Empire sort of adopted Christianity and then essentially stripped it to the extent it was able of its original Middle Eastern Jewish context, a lot of the meaning in the New Testament and even in the Christmas story, in the Nativity story, has been lost. So, although I am not trying to get people to become Jewish, that's not a very common approach in the Jewish religion, but I think it's a great loss both for the Jewish people and also for the Christian world and the world in general, that they have lost sight of the historical Jewish significance of the origins of the New Testament and of the Christmas story. So anyway, let's go ahead and light the menorah, also called Hanukkah. Really, menorah is the general term, and Hanukkah is the specific term for a menorah intended for Hanukkah. Alrighty, so I already got the candles in place. We'll go ahead and light the shamash. There's a whole lot of symbolism and potential symbolism in all of this, but I will leave it to you to investigate. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher qiddashanu b'mitzvoto v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Hanukkah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam she'asa nisim la'avotenu b'yomim ha'hem b'zaman hazeh. Worshipful are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who sanctified us by his commandments and commanded us regarding kindling the flame of dedication, Hanukkah. You are worthy of worship, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who wrought miracles for our forefathers in those days at this time. There we go. Alrighty, folks. What shall we blab about today? That's not a good way of describing it. Rant. There was something on my mind. What was it? Oh yeah. So, the story of Hanukkah, and giving a little context to the nativity story. We'll try to keep it brief, you know what that means. But basically, I shared a link to a YouTube video which will give a brief background history, which connects both the story of the Queen of Esther. Well, they didn't specify that in the video, but it does go essentially from the story of the Queen of Esther, which is an entire book in the Bible, the Book of Esther, which begins concerning the attempted massacre of the Jewish people, a physical genocide of the people of Israel when they were under Persian occupation in the land of Israel and had been exiled by the ancient pagan Persians and had found themselves scattered throughout the Persian Empire. So the video that I just put a link to in my Facebook page will start from that time of the Persian Empire and how the Persian Empire split, and then how one part of the Persian Empire transitioned into a form of the Greek Empire, and then how the Greek Empire then occupied the land of Israel, and how eventually the traditional Jewish people who held on to their biblical values resisted the attempt of the pluralistic, sound familiar, pagan Greek culture, which was not satisfied with the fact that the ancient Israelites at that time refused to assimilate into secular Greek culture. So we go from the time of Esther, where the pagan persecutors of Israel wanted to commit a physical genocide against the Jews, to the time of the pluralistic pagan Greek occupation of the land of Israel, where they wanted to commit an ideological genocide of the Jewish people. And that is where we come to the Hanukkah story, where they overthrew, though they were few, they overthrew the many and reclaimed their heritage, which is the same heritage upon which the culture and society of the United States is found on, the same biblical heritage. And then we go from that time, when the Persian Empire had been split and then transitioned into the Greek occupation in the land of Israel. We go from that time to how the people of Israel succeeded to overthrow them, kick them out, reclaim the temple, rededicate the menorah. But then corruption ensued, and the ancient Maccabean dynasty, which was established, Hasmonean dynasty, slowly gave way to corruption, at least part of it, and then led to the occupation of the land of Israel by the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire, its occupation of Judea, not Palestine, that brings us to the historical context of the Christmas story, the Nativity story. And the video that I shared gives you a little bit of the background about the origin of certain well-known, though extremely widely, extremely misunderstood Jewish groups that are mentioned in the New Testament, the Sadducees and the Pharisees, among others. And yeah, there's a lot to be said there. But long story short, that video shared before I started doing this live gives you a bit of a background. And we don't come to a Palestine in the land of Judea until the Romans in 70 AD destroyed the temple in Jerusalem and established a pagan altar there, kicked out the Jewish people from the land of Israel to the extent that they were able. Small pockets remained hidden for as long as they were able. But when they expelled the majority of the Jewish people after having destroyed the temple, then the Roman occupation renamed the area of Judea, the land of Israel. They renamed it Palestina. This is the first time in history that entire area was being called Palestine, and it was given that name by European Roman occupations. So unlike what pop media teaches you, unlike what the pop media and Islamofascist propagandists are constantly saying, it's not Israel that's a European occupation in the land of Israel. Palestine, from the beginning, has been the name of a European occupation in the land of Israel. Granted, they took the name from the name of the area of the Philistines, which was Peleshet. The area of the Philistines was not the entire area, right? The entire area of the land of Israel before the nation of Israel established itself there. And it did originate there. Though Abraham came from the land of Ur-Kasdim in the area of modern-day Iraq, although Abraham came from that area, Abraham didn't come and enter the land of Israel as an entire nation. Abraham and his descendants became a nation in the land of Israel, including in the area of what's now the Sinai Peninsula. So the people of Israel as a nation are indigenous. They're an indigenous nation to the land of Israel. So it was only after the birth of Jesus, long after the birth and death of Jesus, that the Roman Empire renamed the area of Judea, Palestina, name of a European occupation, and they culturally appropriated, and you got to use their own terms so that they can get it through their thick skulls. They culturally appropriated the name of the Philistine region, which was not the entire area of the land of Israel. The area of the Philistines was only a small sliver of coastline from around the area of the Gaza Strip, just about up to modern-day Tel Aviv, though not all the way up into Tel Aviv. So it was a much smaller area. That was Peleshet, the area of the Philistines. But only after the Jews were expelled by the Roman occupation did the Roman occupiers name the entire area Palestina. And of course the Islamic Arab invaders, several centuries later, adopted that same name of occupation and named their own military occupation of the land of Israel, Jund Filistin. So all this time, it has been the name of occupiers. Even the Philistines, by the way, the very word, the very name Philistines means invaders in the Hebrew language. That's literally what the word means. And the widespread view among historians is that very likely the Philistines were called Philistines, invaders, because they had come from seafaring invaders in the Mediterranean, most likely, based on linguistic similarities, most likely from somewhere around the area of Greece, and had begun invading the area from the sea. So literally from the very beginning. Oh, another thing, Gaza, also, not in Hebrew, but in Arabic, Gaza, it means invader as well. So I think it's a little more than a coincidence. Anyhow, I think that's my rant for today. Oh yeah. I wanted to share that song. This is a traditional song sung. There are a few different terms for it, but this is the traditional song sung after you light the candles. After I play it a little bit, I'll translate it, and if you're a person of faith, you might find it quite meaningful. Let's speed her up. Yeah. All right. So this is let's switch the view. These are the words to the song. Rock of ages, let our song praise thy saving power. And this word saving power, it literally, in Hebrew, it's my salvation, Yeshuati. Yeshua means salvation. And this is the etymological origin of the name Jesus, by the way, just that you know. Jesus originates from the Greek transliteration of the Hebrew name, Yeshua. So there's no Y sound in ancient Greek, and there's no sh, sh sound in ancient Greek. So the Y became an I, and the sh became an S, so you got Jesus. And the final S, instead of just being Yeshua, the final S in Jesus is because it's a masculine name. So they add the final S in Jesus in order that you know it's a masculine name. And then, of course, when you transliterated it into Old English, in Older English, sometimes the J was used to represent the Y sound, but later on, the standardized J sound caught on, and that's how you get Jesus. But yeah, it's in the song. It was also a very common name at that time. Even in the New Testament, there's like 4 or 5 different Jesuses. Sometimes they will translate it as Joshua instead of Jesus, but it's literally the same exact Greek name, all originating from the same Hebrew name. So this is a traditional Hanukkah song. Rock of ages, let our song praise thy saving power. Thou amidst the raging foes wast our sheltering tower. Furious they assailed us, but thine arm availed us, and thy word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. And thy word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. Kindling new the holy lamps, priests approved in suffering, purified the nation's shrine, brought to God their offering. And his courts surrounding, that's the courts of the temple, here in joy abounding. Happy throngs singing songs with a mighty sounding. Children of the martyr race, whether free or fettered, wake the echoes of the songs where ye may be scattered. Yours the message cheering that the time is nearing, which will see all men free, tyrants disappearing. Pretty nice. It's nice. And just a little, I want to see something real fast. A little something on the term race. Ma'oz Hebrew. I'm curious to see which word they translated as race in this song, because that is not a standard term. Here we go. I'm going to read the Hebrew. Yeah, so that English was sort of an abbreviated translation. Long story short, the older use of the word race in English didn't have the phenotype connotation that it has in modern English. In older English, race meant a shared heritage or a shared ancestry. And of course, anybody with a little common sense knows that you can have a shared ancestry, but have very different racial or phenotype features. For example, the people of Israel today, for the most part, they have a shared ancestry. But if you go to Israel, it will be quickly apparent that Jews are not a single race in the modern sense of the term. There are Jews of every race. So in the same way that you could have a group of like 14, 15 grandchildren, and some of them be black, some white, some Chinese, dependent on who their parents married, but yet they all have the same common ancestry through one of their parents, going back to the same grandparents, even though they're different races. Also, in the Greek of the New Testament, the term most commonly translated as race is the same exact word translated as nation. That's the word ethnos. It's the origin of the word ethnicity. And it also doesn't mean race in the standard modern sense of the term. It only means race in the national sense, which again is not strictly genetic and most certainly not in regard to phenotype, meaning external appearance, distinct external appearance. Anyhow, that's enough for now. Hanukkah Sameach. Happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, a happy festival of lights. Yalla bye.